Hello everyone, and welcome to the Soul World, where we talk about dreams and other topics related to the soul. Today we'll be talking about why it's actually important to talk about the soul world and the spiritual world. First, I will share a quick dream. This is a dream that I had 2 weeks ago. And in this dream, I was surrounded by members of my family and other friends. And we seemed to be in some auditorium of some sort. People were asking me questions about the spiritual world. And I was saying, this is what happens to a spirit when it goes to spiritual death, when it goes to the darker spiritual worlds. And I was saying that the spirit is basically trapped and it can't really move and it can't get out. And then one of my family members asked me, how do you know this? How do you actually know that this is what happens? And then in the dream I said, well, because other people have experienced this and because I've experienced this, right? And then that was when the dream ended. There were a couple other small parts, but that was when the core part of the dream ended. Yes, if we look at the principle of interpreting dreams, right? My family doesn't necessarily mean my actual family, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, all of humanity is related. Everyone is one bloodline. So God sees all of humanity as one family. And there were these members of the family that were asking me questions about the spiritual world because they didn't understand about it. They didn't know about it. Then I was telling them, this is what happens to a spirit when it goes to spiritual death. These are some of the characteristics of those spiritual worlds. Kind of wanted to talk a little bit today about why it's actually important to talk about the spiritual world and about the soul world and to testify about it. And the answer is very simple, because not everybody knows that it's real. Right? Even for myself, a while back, even though I grew up as a Christian, I got to a point where I was like, is the spiritual world even real? It kind of seems just like a metaphor. Maybe hell is just kind of a metaphor. Maybe it's not even real. And all these people who claim that they can see the spiritual world, are they really just, using it as like a mind control tactic to control people and make them do what they want? And this is oftentimes the knock that you hear on Christianity and on just religion in general by atheists. What they'll say is, they tell you all these things about the spiritual world. There's these angels and spiritual beings. There's this creator, this God, but then there's no way that you can actually check it, right? Only this special person over here can actually check it. And when in reality, that's not true. Because we all have spirits, we're all actually able to check the spiritual world. And this was something that actually shocked me. It was something that my pastor told me when I started getting more into the Bible a few years back. And I was having these kind of doubts and questions. He said, if you don't believe it, just check it for yourself, right? And that blew my mind. It was completely shocking to me because I'd always had this concept that it was only a special kind of person that could actually see the spiritual world. And of course, being spiritual doesn't mean that you walk around every single day. It's like, oh, angels over here, oh, demons over here. You'd probably go crazy if it was like that. But, in reality, being spiritual is living according to God's word. But it's still also important to know that all of those spiritual things, the spiritual world, all the different levels in the spiritual world, that those are actually real, that they're not metaphors. And that's why it's important to actually experience it for yourself. Even if you only see it just once, right? I have a friend, she said she only saw hell one time, and she said after that she would never want to see it again, right? But that one time was enough. So how is it actually possible to check the spiritual world? If you really, really want to check it for yourself, the first thing you can do is you can read the testimonies of other people who have seen it and experienced it. You can also actually pray and ask, I would like to see the spiritual world in some way, shape, or form. Please show me. And one of the ways that you can actually see it is if you pray for a very, very long time, your soul and spirit become active. And that's when you're actually able to cross that threshold and start seeing the different aspects of the spiritual world. You might only see a little bit. It might only be a little bit at first. But again, it's not like you need to see every single aspect. It would be impossible probably to try to see every single part of heaven. You wouldn't have enough time to do it because it's so big. If you're really having doubts, just know that it's something that you can actually check yourself. And again, for me, this was something that was totally mind-blowing because I'd always had this idea that it was only a special kind of person that could actually see and experience the spiritual world. So I would say if you're having doubts, try actually praying deeply for a long period of time, maybe over 40 days, for 100 days, for 300 days straight, and you'll be able to see it for sure. This is something that, it talks about in the Bible, ask, seek, knock, and the door will be open to you, right? Yeah, so that's kind of the key reason why we've been making all these videos in general, is because not everybody knows that these things are actually real, and not everyone knows that you can actually experience it for yourself. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is you don't need to just sit back taking everyone else's word for it. If you have doubts or suspicions that all these things are real, know that it's something that you can actually go and check for yourself if you don't believe it. So with that, I would encourage you to actually try it and put this to practice. Try actually praying for 40 days, 100 days, 300 days straight. You'll definitely be able to experience it. So hopefully in the future, we can maybe do some videos on more about the spiritual world, centered more on the spiritual world. And including maybe some more on dreams in the future as well, and talk about them. But yeah, that'll be it for today. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching.